What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Letitia and this is That So Letitia. And for today's video, I will be reviewing and demoing Anastasia Beverly Hills' newest eyeshadow all-in-one face palette. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau all-in-one face palette. It totes 12 shades. Here they are. They range from shimmers, pressed palettes, and mattes. So as always, first I'm going to prime, and I will be using Fenty Beauty's. This is their Pro Filt'R Mattifying Face Base Primer. And I love this primer. I have said it in some of my other videos because if you have any bit of shine, if you have combination skin to wear throughout the day, maybe your T-zone may start to shine, get oily. Definitely if you are out in the summer sun and heat and humidity, this primer does what it is supposed to do. It keeps your face moisturized, but it does not allow for all of that oil and shine breakthrough. For my foundation, I'm also going to be using by Fenty Beauty. This is their Pro Filt'R Soft Matte Longwear Foundation, and my shade is 420. And to apply, I will be using my e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. I love this brush for foundation. Next for concealers, I will be using by Juvias Place I Am Magic Concealer, and this one is in the shade number 9. Just will be applying a little bit of that to my under eye areas. Nose. And I also will be applying a bit of Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer, and this one is in the shade named Chocolat, and I will be applying it using a Morphe M224 brush. I love this concealer also so much because it gives what it's supposed to give, but in the areas that you want to somewhat conceal and not so much highlight as well, or even bring a bit of brightness to, this particular shade and their formula, it works. It just does what it's supposed to do for me. And to blend these concealers in, I will be using a damp beauty sponge. And just going to blend them all out. And to set the concealers, Too Faced, this is their loose translucent setting powder, and it is in the shade Translucent Medium. I'm just going to apply a light layer using that same damp beauty sponge. Not too much. Do not want cake face, especially in this heat. Going out, I don't know how hot it may be where you guys are viewing from, but ma'am, sirs, beloveds, out here in the desert, it's like 109 degrees. Literally, like, that's the temperature right now. It is giving SpongeBob when he came up from Bikini Bottom. Very dry, very hot, low humidity, so the field temperature is exactly the real temperature. And I do not want to be out here in these streets and all of a sudden my face just started cracking. No ma'am. To bring a bit of dimension that I am looking for and a bit of warmth back to my face, I will be using by Fenty Beauty. This is their Sun Stalk'R Face and Eye Palette. Speaking of all-in-one face palettes, this one right here, she is everything. If you were on the fence about buying any Fenty Beauty bronzers because you didn't want to buy multiple ones, you didn't know which one would best serve your complexion or the look you're going for, this palette gives you all of that. You get to mix and match. You can use them for bronzers, you can use them for definers, you can use them for eyeshadow. So she really did what needed to be done when she came out with this palette, because it gives you the best of some of her bronzer shades. And you also get highlight shades in here as well. So what I just used was, let's see which one. I used Chocolat and Thick Mint, which are these two rich shades here. And I just kind of combined them together. And then just a little bit of contouring, very light, of my nose. I will be using, and this is the collaboration face palette by Makeup Revolution and Tammy. So I will be using for this one Contoured Cutie and Bronze Goddess. And I will be using, this is my Morphe E62 brush. And to prep my eyes for this look, I will be using by Juvias Place. This is their Eye Prep Eye Prime Eye Primer in the shade number 1. And I will be applying that using my Morphe M705 brush. Now for the palette, let's talk. So the shades that they suggest that you should not use in your immediate eye area are, let's see, we have Paloma, this shade here. Also we have Wisteria, this shade here, and then Metro, this shade here. Now, surprisingly, there are 5 matte shades, and 3 of them they suggest do not use in your immediate eye area. They are pressed pigments, and they just advise against it on the packaging, right? So we're gonna talk as I work. So of course I'm gonna use my M504. This is my ride or die. Y'all know already. I'm going to use this shade here pretty much as my transition kind of all over shade. Okay, so a lot of people that I saw like on Instagram, they are not happy with this palette's recommendations in terms of use. And one thing that I have been noticing as of late, or I've noticed as of late, Anastasia Beverly Hills, they give you pigment. You get pigment. I don't care how fair shaded you are. I don't care how deep your complexion is. They give you pigment. They're very fair about that. Like, their shades work on all skin tones, in my opinion. Some a little bit more brighter, some a little bit more richer than others, but they work on all skin tones. And what I've noticed is, let me just ask this question. Do any of us actually take the time to look at the recommendations in terms of which shade to use on your eye area, which shade not to use on your eye area? Or is that just one of those things that periodically, if it becomes like a hot topic of discussion, then we kind of chime in with our displeasures, our concerns, our frustrations, our excitements? Like, how does that work? Because doing a bit of research, studies have shown that Anastasia Beverly Hills, in many of their palettes that I own, many of which I don't own, they have disclosed that certain shades should just not be used in your eye area. Definitely with the addition to Anastasia Beverly Hills in the way of the Nouveau collection. All of her palettes, especially like the larger ones, they will say A1, B5, D9, D12, D11, D13, and so on should not be used in your immediate eye area. Now, I will confess, I have been guilty of being like, whatever, I'm gonna use it where I want to use it. Has my face suffered? Have I broken out? No. So I think it is safe to say to do your due diligence when it comes to anything that you put on your face, anything that you put on your body or in your body. Yeah, I think a rule of thumb should be, regardless of what the brand is, the product, you should always kind of do your due diligence in terms of reading the recommendations in terms of use and things of that nature. But Anastasia Beverly Hills, this is not like new to where they're just now saying, don't use that shade, don't use that shade, don't use that shade. Recent release from them prior to this one was the Primrose palette. The Primrose palette also, if you read on the packaging, it also is marketed as a all-in-one face palette. 12 shades, nine they actually suggest to not use near your eye area. That hurt me, and the reason that hurt me and I did not go for that palette is because some of their deepest berry toned rich shades were ones that they were like, do not use near your eye area. Okay, there's nothing I can do with this palette, so I didn't buy it. In my opinion, immediate eye area is like using it your lower lash line, inner eye highlight. I'm gonna be honest, guys, if I do not use this particular shade, I just don't really see me like loving this palette. I just don't. That's just me. At least for this look that I'm going for, I don't see myself being able to use this palette. So I'm going to take Metro, the shade here, M504, and I'm going to apply that here to the back portion of my eye. I will be very honest, I wish that this palette would have had a deep, kind of a deep matte shade. That's just me. I feel like for palettes to be universal, and I understand there's certain like color stories that, you know, brands are going for at any given time. But I just feel like in order to maximize the usage of the palette and be able to give it various dimensions, it we needed a deep matte shade, and this palette is not giving me that. Like when I used this shade here and I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm like, that shade is washing my eyeballs out. Like, I need something a little bit more deeper. So, and you know, honestly, like, to each his own, this is just my opinion. It won't always be that every palette is like, ooh, I'm in love, that palette was made for me, or, you know, my skin tone, or the look I'm looking to give. So it's not that at all. I'm a huge fan of Anastasia Beverly Hills. Literally, I am. I feel like their eyeshadow palettes, their brow products, they give what they're supposed to give. But I will say this particular palette, maybe have to play around with it a little bit more. This is my absolute first time using it in front of you guys. I've had it for a few days now, but so yeah, that's that. Okay, so I have pretty much packed my eye with one of the shades that they say do not use on your eye. Why did I do that? Because again, if I didn't, these were my options. These, literally, just these two matte shades here would have been my options. Just these two. I'm going to use this shade here, which is called Lily, towards the front of my eye area, and to apply that I will be using my Morphe M705 brush. And this one is a very soft glitter shade, very soft. And there is a bit of fallout that I'm getting. So not so much glitter, this one looks more metallic, but it's beautiful. That's very pretty. See, I mean, Anastasia Beverly Hills, they give you what you need, but this palette, I just feel like we could have did with maybe a few more matte shades that we literally would have been, according to the instructions for using this palette, able to use on our eye area. This one here, Lily, is beautiful. And we're just going to do the same for here. You can even use Lily as a topper, similar to some of the pots that like ColourPop has out. Definitely, like, this is giving me Urban Decay, Space Cowboy, with just a bit more of a tint of peach. But yeah, you could use this alone and build it up, or this can be a topper for your matte eyeshadow. This one is pretty. This one is, now this one I can really see myself getting a lot of use out of, honestly. Yeah, this is pretty. Yeah. And see, in order for me to have achieved that, I had to use the shade that I wasn't supposed to use. And it sucks because if you look at the palette, the way that they have them together, you know, and this is definitely a good tip for people who want to use or wear eyeshadow. But, and I remember I gave this tip in a previous video, when you buy a palette, if you're kind of confused as to which colors to put together, oftentimes a good palette, even though it may be like a random color story to you with shades you're not familiar with, they somewhat pair them together to where you may have like your matte, your shimmer, your glitter, your metallic, and they'll be like right next to each other. And you can just pair them that way to get, you know, a cohesive eye look. Yeah, this is, Lily is everything. I can just sit here and just keep packing my eyes with it, but I'm not, because sometimes taking off shimmer, glittery, metallic makeup, oh my gosh. Y'all, I'm telling you, it's like if I don't use nothing else out of this palette, Lily will be the one. Oh, that is, ooh, just gives me the feels. We're now going to apply Hope, which is this shade here. I'm going to use my Morphe 705 brush, and I'm going to apply it right in the middle of where Lily and Metro met. And then using my 504 just to blend it a little bit. I feel like this look needs a little bit more. I'm going to use this shade, which is called Muse, and this one is listed as a metallic dark chocolate brown. Okay, using a Morphe M222 brush, and let's see. And again, they're very pigmented. For my lower lash line, I will be using a purple, Yes, a purple eyeliner. This one, it's discontinued. Actually, it's by Marc Jacobs. This one is in the shade Plumage. There are various purple shaded, very pigmented eyeliners out there. I even have one by LA Girl that you could use if you do not have this one. And moving on to my blush, I will be using, this is Juvia's Place, the Saharan Blush Volume 1, and I will be using Abby, just this one. And I'm applying it using a Eco Tools blush brush. And for my lips, I will first be applying, this is by MAC Cosmetics. It is Every Brown Girl's Dream Lip Liner. It's in a shade called Chestnut. Just a thin layer. And on top of that, I will be applying a lip gloss by Morphe, and this one is in the shade named Venus. So this is the finished look. Off camera, I applied some Kiss Couture lashes in the style named Tammy. So, final thoughts, if you made it this far. It's a good palette. It's high quality in terms of the color payoff. You guys already know I fell in love with Lily. I think Lily, out of this entire palette, Lily is my jam. Overall, you get 12 shades, right? Of which, what was it, 4 are matte. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. 4 are matte. They only suggest to use 2 of the mattes on your actual eye. $55. They, which I forgot to mention, they did not include a mirror, a brush, and they stated that they did not include the brush to give a little bit more space to the pans for the shadows. To use this one alone, for me, it was a little bit of a challenge just because there's only 2 mattes that are formulated to use on your eye area, and you have all these shimmers and metallics. I like to do my transition shade. I like to do a matte or 2 in various shades and then kind of highlight with the shimmer. So for this to be a palette that is primarily metallics and shimmers, to use by itself, it did present a bit of a struggle for me. Would I use this in conjunction with another palette? Absolutely. Would I suggest purchasing it? This one honestly is a to each its own palette. I can't necessarily say run out and buy it. I can't say do not buy it, because different strokes for different folks. You may want to use it for a look that I just don't necessarily myself do, but because I do try to focus on easy looks, like beginner looks, things of that nature, to have so many shimmers, it can become overwhelming. But all in all, again, just giving my opinion. So let me know, guys, what do you think about this palette? Is this one of those that you feel like you have to have, or you're like, no, I'm good, I'll pass? Let me know, sound off in the comment box. And while you're at it, do not forget to like and share. Definitely give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my content, and if you have not subscribed, you got time, get to it. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Until we meet again, and yeah.